And to the new members and to the old members that have found their way back to the community, I need you just as much as you need me. In a beautiful turn of events here, at least in the short term, we've got XRP up today 5.6%, and we start pushing up into a more area filled with resistance. Now, I love that we're up 5.58%. I like seeing Bitcoin up 2.46% on the day and up over 1,395 points. But we're going to go over a few things that catch my attention. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to come back down, but definitely leads me to believe that there very well could be another correction here before we can ultimately push up and out. And we'll be able to find out a lot here in the next day or two, whether or not that this is just a rally that had to happen because we had such an absurd drop, or if we can start to make something of this. Now, one big key factor that we would look for all the time on a rebound like this after a drop is how's the volume portfolio. I'm a little bit concerned here that the volume's not picking up at a more alarming rate. I was hoping to see more volume come in than just what we're seeing, but we'll continue to monitor this and see if in fact we can push over some of these crucial levels. We'll go over some of the key resistance here, and we'll see the possibilities if we have to come back down as well. I'll go over both scenarios as I always do, and then we'll decide what we think is more likely to happen here during this live. Chance, welcome in. Good to see you in the audience, my friend. If you are tuning in, so we'll go over the analysis of the price action. We'll take a look at the volume portfolio to see if it's giving us a clue here to the fact that we might not be as strong as we look on the day, and that we might have to go down to tap a little more support. Or are we going to start building up some volume here? Are we going to start pushing over the top side and start to show much more bullish momentum? It's very, very intriguing where we're at right now, because we're right up against some pretty interesting resistance. So we'll go over that when we get started here. Moza here, welcome in along with CJ2 Pilot. Thank you both for being in Tom's Army for over 6 months with the XP Predictor. Yes, please hit that like button, as it will help us push through the YouTube algorithm. All that means is YouTube recommends my content. My live and my updates will show up when you're looking through the news feed, whether you've ever heard of me or not. And then you'll be able to find a way to come and watch the content, as I think our audience, it's just a beautiful, beautiful place we have here, and we have a lot to offer. UK Phil and Mark Caston, welcome in, and thank you both for being in Tom's Army for over 3 months with the XRP Meteor. John Hall, good evening. I hope you're having a blessed evening, my friend. So we'll go over that. We'll go over the Bitcoin charts as we talked about. We'll look at the XRP Bitcoin pairing as it's up 3.06% up to the 774 sat level. That oftentimes can show us some clues. Other than that, we'll take a look at the market cap as it's right at about 25 billion. And then I want to read through one thing today, only one thing, because I was looking at, where was this at? Hold on just one sec, because I was, not the whales, I don't care about the whales. There was a little coverage that I seen, and we'll talk about this in just a second here. But it's just about the little bit of resilience we're being shown, and can we continue to sustain it within the market volatility? And that's why I want to look at the volume, and I want to make sure where our next resistance is, and if we can get on top of it, how much higher can we stretch out? Or if we break down, how much lower do we have to go? So make sure to hit that like button, and I'll catch you on the other side of the intro. Good evening, 6:46 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Saturday, July 6th, 2024. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Syrian, welcome in, and thank you for not only being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge and me being abducted by aliens, but I also thank you for being a mod, and you do a very, very good job as well. I've noticed you're very, very much on the ball when somebody's being disruptive, or if you gotta, do a few things. So I really appreciate your dedication and support. So let's get right into it. XRP up 5.56% on the day. Now, if we continue this rally here, and it's a strong if, because we're starting to come down into some little bit of a resistance here, and the reason why we can start talking about this, and it's why you're starting to see a little bit of a rounding. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to round right now. It just means that we are up at a critical resistance right now. And if we want to be honest with ourselves, we fell through this very easily, this cup and handle. And right now, we're coming up to the back test. Now, do we think it's going to come past? Well, first thing we start to do is look at the volume. So let's start at the 4 hourly. 4 hourly volume is just breaking down while the volume rises. So rising price, crashing volume, eventually will lead to a bearish reversal. Now, if you have rising price, rising volume, it's a beautiful circumstance for a continuation. Right now, however, we are right on the precipice of this. Well, we're on the resistance right now, about 45 cents. And if we get rejected here, that's an issue. If we get rejected here, it doesn't mean that the pattern's even close to being done, right? Even if we get rejected, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with this consolidation back up. It could simply mean one of two things. One, we're going to come to this support here at 425. Two, we're going to come back down here on this channel support at about 37 cents. So that's the two options. If we get a rejection here, which even if it breaches up, I would be stunned. I guess if it breached up and then we tried to use this as support, but how quickly it fell through here, I would be a little surprised if we just came up here and didn't try to back test this at least. Or maybe we come up here to like, that's the daily though, so it's going to take work to get to 47. We can't just skip as much as I would like to say, oh, we can get up. Maybe it is the come up, that's still a little high. We're right up at this resistance, so we're trying to catch a layer, but we do have a golden cross starting here in the 30-minute, so that's a good sign. That's a good sign, so that's a good sign. In the 45-minute, we're up towards the 200-day resistance. So it appears to me what the most likely scenario is we're massively oversold in some of these smaller time frames as well. It seems like everything is meeting. Maybe it comes up a little higher than that. Everything's meeting to at least back test some of these lower numbers to see if we can continue this rally. It almost feels like it wants to come back to the 200 or the 20-day in some of these smaller, or just retest in here. But then we start to look at if we did have a retest like that, is it starting to pull out a little bit of more of a bullish tendency here? Because now it's not, hey, if it breaks down there, is it just going to come here? Now we start to look, because we had this, maybe we use this as a nice consolidation and we start breaking up here in a way. The only other option is it gets on top of here and we start doing this and start pushing up. But right now, being at that key resistance, can we break through? Can we break through? Now, if we look at it in the 30-minute, it's a little scary because the volume is just continuously going down in each candle, which is typically the sign of this is typically a bull trap on the rally. And if you don't know what a bull trap is, that's simply defined as, so it can be like we had a big drop and then you start going up and you start to recover the loss. So we dropped like 22, 23%. We've recovered around 17%, 18% now from that in the totality of the drop. If we look, let's see the exact number. But we've recovered. It's been a pretty nice recovery. About 17.75%. So now you have to start asking, well, the volume is starting to way down. Even on a dump on the 4th of July when the ETFs were closed, look how much volume came in on the dump and look how much volume's coming in on the rebound. Doesn't exactly make you feel very nice. So, and now we start to look at the RSI and it's heading into such a severe oversold status, which right now the reason it got so oversold so quickly, we haven't had any real touchback downs of support. And anybody who trades the gaps, you know, this isn't necessarily what you want to see for a continuation pattern. Now, I hold out hope that it can break out over this level and then we can start pushing up in a unified way. But I'm just starting to see some of the early warning signs that we may not be as strong as we need to be to just push past, and there's a reason why we came down to these levels. So I'd love to hear from the audience. Do you think that we can push past this resistance, or do you think that we're going to end up breaking down here? And do you think the volume has a factor? Like, do you think it's worth paying attention to? I would love to know what the audience thinks here. I would love to know what the audience thinks, because it's a very important question. At least to me it is. I think it's a very important thing that we have to ask ourselves as well. Like, are we in a position right now, and make no mistake about it, buying it right now, it's interesting because if you didn't buy it at 38, it makes it a little more difficult just to make an entry point at 45, just because it's up 5.56%. You can see some of the shorter time frames are massively oversold. So you'd have to make an informed decision here if you're going to make your first entry, but it is under 50 cents at 45 cents. It's not the end of the world, even if it were to come down. But I'm interested to see this next. What happens here next after we get through this, because this was nothing. This was more of a, not nothing, but this was a prototypical rebound after we had such a big consolidation. Or I would like to see us go more into like a capitulation mode. Some people are afraid of it, but capitulation opens up big opportunities. But who knows? Maybe we can start to get hot here. Maybe Bitcoin can lend us a hand and start to get a little hot here, and maybe, just maybe, we can start to push past these numbers. I am honestly not sure if it's going to go live or not. I've heard the rumors, but I am not sure if that's a verified rumor. I've seen a lot of it on social media, but I'm kind of afraid to talk about it till it does go live, because I know what happens a lot of times when I put faith into what I see on social media. A lot of times, you know, we end up getting burned. But I have seen multiple different reports that it is going live, but we'll see. We'll see. Nothing that was verified, though. See, these aren't verified reports. These are just people on social media, not any different than what I do on YouTube. And they're trying to push, hopefully, the right agenda. But anyhow, so if we're looking at it for today now, for the daily close, we got about an hour and 6 minutes. So what exactly would we be looking for? Well, the first thing that would be pretty nice would be if we can stay above, and where are we at in current times, just so we can make sure. I'm going to actually go closer to this so we can see it in a more transparent way. 45.07, which honestly, we are right on. So there's only an hour and 5 minutes, so it is not unreasonable for us to think that we could get to 45.05 by the end. Unfortunately, it's also not unreasonable to think that we could come down here where the golden cross is at 44.38. You know, so it could go either way. It's just been a 17% rally without any real dip. And we all know how crypto tends to work. Now, maybe we can catch a break here because it did have such a volatile drop that there was a lot of people that were shaken out. And after a 22% drop, you know, just because it came up and now there's only about 6.2% left, maybe, you know, it'll just come up because now we have buyers that bought in and they're becoming more happy. But the problem is I'm not seeing a real, so what I want to see is a lot of buzz. And not necessarily by social media. I want to see buzz in the buys. I want to see people becoming excited, like, holy shit, XRP at 38 cents. This is unbelievable. This is it. Opportunity of a lifetime. On the dump volume, you know, in that 4 hourly, we had 20 million. That's nothing to write home about. That is just a drop in the hat for what we normally have in bull markets or big bear dumps. 4 hourly on the reversal, you know, when it came down again, but it started to reverse back up. There was about 8 million. This candle 6.8, prototypical for the reversal. Now, on the next candle, we start pushing up. So let's see the volume. 20 million on the dump candle. And let's see what happens. Even the ones before 20 million on the way down, 2.6, 3.7, 8.3, 4.5, just to get a baseline. Now that 20 million candle, you get the follow up with the first real rally in the 4 hourly. 4.068 million. That's 25% the dump volume. You go to the next candle, 2.896 million. Now you're like, well, what the hell? Our two strongest candles to start, and they're decreasing so much. Then 1.282 million. Then we get a little bit of a resurgence because we had a little bit of a up and down and back up. So we get 2.6, 3.01. Then we're back to 1.87, 1.69, 2.11. This 4-hour candle has an hour left. We're at 866,000. So I am wondering, do we have enough pressure here to continue pushing up? That is the question of this live. Is there enough pressure built up? Or are we going to start reversing here? That's the question. I would love for us to just break out for like 100%. I mean, I'm a long-term holder of XRP. I'm invested long. So, like, I can talk to the discrepancy if we go down, but at the same time, you know, I'm just looking for better buying opportunities if it does come down. Like I've told everybody, you better get some stuff to the side in case we do double bottom or in case we do retap some of these lower levels, because if you didn't get an opportunity, it's unlikely that even if though we're in, and I would love to just say we're going to go up 100% right now, but it's unlikely that this can be sustained without any kind of real retest to the bottom side. But hey, after big drops sometimes, you start to melt up. And what I mean by that is you start to melt up in a fashion to where now people get excited, and now you start to tap some of these higher levels. If that starts happening, it's going to be a whole different ballgame. It'll be a whole different ballgame for us if that starts happening. So, and I'm excited. I'm excited if something like that were to start happening. Purely because I like to watch this every single day. And once it starts to reverse in either fashion, whether it comes down, there's excitement. If it rises up real quick, it's even more excitement because we're on the move. But even on a drop down, I become very, very excited because I get an opportunity. See, where there's an opportunity, it makes it worth trading. See, this is why you don't want regulations in crypto. You want those 20% drops or 25% drops followed by quick rebounds. Now, the problem is I feel kind of like a manipulated rebound here. See, with Russia, with Mt. Gox, and also with the U.S. government simultaneously dumping Bitcoin, it seems kind of advantageous for them to let it come back up here for a second. Now it's recovered like 4 or 5% from the lows. And now they've got enough margin here to start pushing back down. That's where it becomes scary. I want this to break out so bad. Like so bad. It makes it so much better to be an influencer for XRP when the prices are moving up, only because there's more volume of people. Sometimes quantity isn't always necessarily better. Sometimes the value is in the community when it's a smaller community. Kind of like when you live in a small town. The value's there. Even though there's not as many people, the value is it being a smaller community where everybody knows everybody. And you can trust more about what somebody might say to you. But I'm intrigued here. Either way, I'm intrigued. I get to test out some of the new platforms in different ways. So if you're copy trading me, you better be prepared for my weird ways. That's the only warning I give everybody. If you're copy trading me, you got to go down fighting with the ship, because I do things in a weird way. And right now, I've got a nice little test going on HOTCOIN. So I think it's going to pan out, but nobody ever really knows. And if you're looking to trade XRP in the USA and you're trying to get on the right track, especially if we did correct again, or you're like, hey, 44.9 cents, even though we're up 5.7%, this still isn't 55 or 75. Make sure you look in the video description below. There's BITUNIX for the USA and abroad. Lowest spot and leverage trading fees in the USA, and it's the one that I like the most personally right now. There's HOTCOIN. They have the XRP Bitcoin pairing, and they have IOTA and IOTA X. So pay attention to that. Pay attention to that, because I need to punch myself in the face, because I have some funds sitting for just IOTA, and I missed because I was not paying attention. And it almost came right down to the 12.8 cent target. So IOTA, just like the rest, very much at this make it or break it point. Like if we're going to continue this rally, and we could, IOTA could just come right up to like 16.3. IOTA's volume, just like most of crypto, it's not looking so stellar. But, you know, after such a lengthy drop, you know, Sometimes you do make some good rallies out of here. I mean, I would like to see some volume come in, but hey, 5.7% on the day. No one's going to complain about that. So 7:02, we've got 65 people watching, 57 likes. I appreciate everybody who's watching. Thank you for hitting that like button. I know it's a Saturday. I'll probably have to do that. This will probably be a shorter live just because I've got some stuff to do here, because we're doing my son's birthday party tomorrow. He turns 5 on July 11th. So we're doing a birthday party here. And then I think next Sunday when my dad's in town, we're going to go over there and do a little celebration with him as well, since his birthday's on Thursday, my son. So, but I wanted to do my due diligence and do a live here for a little bit, and just see where everybody stood. But it's a pretty slow live here this evening, so not very much communication. So I'm basically able to just run through this free flow, and when I can free flow, I get done a lot quicker. I copy traded some Chinese on HOTCOIN and got liquidated on purpose. Well, hey, I understand it, because I have to, you have to learn the exchange in the beginning. Like, I'm still learning with HOTCOIN how it lets me expand into a position with other people if they're copy trading. So I always tell people, don't follow me in the beginning, because I have to go through. But I'm good with the good and bad. That's why I trade $100 at a time in the copy trade, just because, hey, if you get a 30% loss, it's $30 instead of having the community face a $300 loss. It is, Sensei. It is. It's fun when you do stuff like that. There's no doubt about that. But Bitcoin right now up 2.6% or 1,473 points, sitting at 58,111. It seems to be caught in this momentary range here where we've come up a couple of times, but it hasn't been able to get any more volume. And in the hourly, the volume is, in a weird way, it's actually crashing from just the low volume it had. These hourly candles are becoming weaker and weaker. So we'll see. We'll see if for Bitcoin, maybe if it gets up to this 58,454, if that's a rejection. However, we already rejected off of there once. We'll see, because this is interesting. It's interesting because we are pushing into that oversold area. Even in the hourly, we're getting pretty far down there. 45 we were, 30 starting to push back out. We'll see. We'll see. It's one of those moments where it's exciting when you start watching stuff like this. I'm excited. I am. Makes me excited with this. And I do thank everybody who continues to tune in. I know in these times some people are, and it's not just some, a lot of people are to the mindset now, I can't win. The manipulation's too great in crypto. No matter if it goes up, it's always going to come down lower than our buy. That's what a lot of mindsets have turned to in crypto. And I can't necessarily say I blame somebody, but we have to stay positive. Positivity over negativity, and we have to share love. We have to share love and unity. Crypto bug, I'm in a 15x long since 55,181. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's a beautiful Bitcoin long. Look at it. If it continues moving up here, you're coming into a major resistance area, and this was the pennant flag support, and now it's a resistance up here if it gets rejected, and that's at about 50, and it already got rejected once. That's around 58,480 area. Target is 58,700 for crypto bug. That's right around that. That's right around the area. That's a good area. There's heavy resistance up there. It's a good area to target, honestly. If we can get past, let's see, where would you be looking? What is that in the hourly? I mean, it's a little bit of an overshot, but it does fill out what would be this entirety of this drop up there. I could see that. I could see that if it's going to continue breaking up. At 8 o'clock, though, it's going to be interesting how we go from the flip. Do we continue this bullish momentum in 54 minutes? Or do we start bringing some bears to the house? Hopefully we can keep seeing green. It's nice to see it leading into my Sunday's birthday as well, to see a little bit of green here. It's nice to come in on a green note. XRP Bitcoin up 2.8%. The pairing at the 772 sat level. That doesn't necessarily look good. That's coming up in a rising channel style formation. The market's giving us mixed signals. It's going up, but it's doing it in a facetious fashion, and we don't have a lot of volume to accompany it. This almost suggests that it could reverse back to the bottom. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. We'll see if we can continue because we have a little bit of a golden cross on the hourly. But we need to get out of here and stop this little channel and come up like this. We definitely don't want to start coming down like this because then it's going to have to come all the way back to the bottom. Because now it's like we dumped out. Now it's like... It's choppy. And there's no volume. Oh, boy. Mr. Carter, welcome in. Hashtag mother's second choice, M2C. Thank you for being in Tom's Army for over 2 years with the XP 589 Moon Badge. It's my son's birthday on July 11th. He turns 5. But we're doing a birthday party tomorrow at my house. So I just got some stuff to take care of still this evening. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to do a live this weekend. And all of a sudden at 6:30, I'm like, you know what? I feel like I got a moment here when everybody's kind of quieted down. And I think it was a good time to do this. Marvin, good evening. Herbert, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 2 years with the XRB 589 Moon Badge. I greatly appreciate that dedication, my friend. I greatly, greatly appreciate that dedication. I appreciate the 82 people that have decided to join us here on this Saturday. And thank you to the 69 who have hit that like button. Means the world to me. Means the world because I can push my content. Let's do this reading real quick to get it out of the way. So XRP shows resilience amid crypto market volatility. The XRP, the native token of Ripple's open source XRP ledger, displays positive technical signals despite recent volatility in the broader crypto market. The cryptocurrency exhibits relative strength compared to Bitcoin, and short-term price forecasts suggest potential upward movement. Over the past 24 hours, Ripple XRP has increased in price by 4.3%, now up to 5.6%. Analyzing XRP's technical indicators reveals a mixed picture with some positive signs. The 5-day and 20-day moving averages have formed a bullish crossover, suggesting potential upward movement. However, bearish crossovers are evident between the 20-day, 50-day moving averages and the 50-day and 200-day moving averages. So, exactly what we're talking about. Short-term signals are pushing bullish, but if you look at it from a longer scope, it's still showing bearish. VWAP starting to turn on the 2-hour, but 4-hour looks good. That's good to know. The 2-hourly in the very short term is where I'm a little concerned. And that's why I don't want anybody to get concerned if we did have a little consolidation. And it still very well could push up still. Just the short term, we could have a small... But we'll see what happens here at this 44 point... right around the 45 cent level. Right where we're at. We'll see if this ends up being a resistance, or we can show this as a layer of support. I love seeing some of the technicals coming in the chat. Thank you so much for all of that. The 14-day relative strength index, RSI, stands at 46.58, indicating neutral territory, while the moving average convergence divergence, or MACD, remains in negative territory at negative 0.28, signaling bearish momentum. The stochastic oscillator at 47.85 also reflects a neutral range. Pivot levels show that the classic pivot point at 44.05 cents with support at 43.51 and resistance at 44.51 cents. The Fibonacci pivot point aligns similarly with support at 43.67 and resistance at 44.43. According to the analysis from Changli, XRP's price forecasted to rise by 26.73 cents to reach 53.2 cents. Further projections are more bullish. More bullish, anticipating XRP reaching 61 cents and an average of 63 cents throughout 2024. However, the analysis advises caution, noting that long-term cryptocurrency price predictions, especially for a 10-year horizon, are highly speculative. Ripple is trading at 43 cents, now it's at 44.9 roughly, and the 24-hour trading volume was at 916.8 million. So that was some good information, at least from the indicator standpoint. So it'll be a very interesting paradox to be in here in the crypto sphere. True, welcome in, my friend. I know I forgot to say hi to you. I appreciate seeing you in the audience this evening. But we'll just hope that we can get a little pressure here and that we can continue pushing this rally and that this could be, you know, a final shakeout. But I also am very realistic when I look at these, and the only thing that stands in my way right now, if the volume was coming in stronger, I'd feel better. But volume on a thinly traded weekend doesn't necessarily, you know, it won't necessarily kill us. It's just if we were to fall into an area where we can't push past, that's where the lack of volume could hurt us if we get an oversell. The bottom line is, when you don't have a lot of buy volume coming in with a rally, all it takes is that first bit of sell pressure that overwhelms the buyers. And then if that happens, it implodes. And then it becomes just a little bit of a rally within a bear drop, you know, a bear market rally after the drop. So that's what we're watching. We're watching to see if we can just continue this, or if somewhere the sellers come in and overwhelm us. Right now it looks good. Right now, not bad. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. 47 minutes until the daily close, so we're hanging on pretty nicely here this evening. We're hanging on pretty nicely. DGB's up 9.4% on the day. DGB's over that 740 resistance. That's a major area. If we can get back up within here, we could make a push. We do need some volume, though. That's the evident thing. Now that we're to these resistance areas, we're going to need a little bit of help. If DGB could get some help here, it could have a nice little push. If DGB could get some help here and doesn't get rejected at this formation, it could get some help. We didn't take the route I was talking about yesterday for the most possible support, but I suppose it could come up here and then come back down, but this would be more painful now. See, this would have been less painful because more people are going to start buying it on the rally. So it could cause people to sell if it does that now. So maybe we don't want that to happen now. Maybe we just want it to do this and then start pushing out. Just for the sake of the ones who got in. See, now I start to look at it from both sides. Because as much as I don't mind getting those beautiful price rallies to the downside, or price depreciation so that we can pick up a lot cheaper, it's at the same time I know there's going to be a level of people that are not liquidated because they're in spot, but they basically fool themselves, and instead of, you know, building onto the bag on every successive drop, they end up just giving up, and then they just give back to that. It's basically giving back to the house without even having a shot. So, but everything is hitting a resistance point here. So this is the moment of truth here. Can we push up to the next layer? And I'm always happy to be on at these exact times. Rick, welcome in, and thanks for being a mod here. I greatly appreciate it, Rick. Greatly appreciate it. XDC is up about 3.05%, recovering most of its losses. Has a nice support structure here now at 276. Hasn't necessarily tapped it yet on any kind of real push up and then breakdown. Hourly here we're at major resistance as well. So, I mean, we could be coming into a correction just to prove that this was more than just a bearish consolidation or a bearish, we want to prove that this isn't just a bull trap. That this isn't just a, let's just call it a bear market rally because we had such a drop that now it's common that we would have a rally back up to retest some of the higher points from where the drop started happening and see if it does turn into resistance. See, that's what we're coming up to. We had our day of grace, but now we're coming up to those areas to where we've got to make a decision. XRP, like DGB, is right there. XRP is right there like DGB. It's right at the resistance of this cup and handle. So that's at 45.05 cents approximately. So just like DGB, we're coming up, and we have been up here for 1, 2, 3, 4. The last 5 hours in the hourly, we've been up here trying to build a little bit of steam, but we haven't been able to build anything yet. We're trying. It hasn't given up. You can see we haven't given up. It's still at the 44 point, it depends which one, but 44.9 on average. So it hasn't given up. It hasn't fallen through. It's just we are at these major resistance points. And you know how resistance works. If you don't have enough pressure or enough buyers, it starts to kind of slaughter you a little bit. That's all. So I'm paying heavy attention though. I'm paying heavy attention. Just because I think it's important. It's important. I think it's important. Sorry, I'm looking at something. Somebody texted me about the party thing. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. So other than that, I think we hit a good spot here for XRP. I think this has been a good analysis so far. If anybody has anything to add, I would love to hear it. Because right now we're kind of just waiting. We're waiting to see if we can push past this resistance right now. Or if the market's going to come down and prove that we can grab a little more support and then push through this resistance. Either way is fine by me. As long as we push through the resistance in time, I don't care if it happens right now. If it pushes through it right now, it's less likely to sustain just because we don't have a strong volume portfolio across the market. But it didn't hinder the rally at all. Didn't hinder the rally. Timber, here's the new you. Yes. Yes. Free Toast, welcome in, and I appreciate you continuing to tune in. Continuing to tune in. Just like everybody else, I appreciate you continuing to tune in. Some people would be like today, oh, I know it's up 5.7%, but just last week we were up around 50 cents. So yeah, even though we've come up and had a nice rally, just last week Bitcoin was at 65. You know, that's what happens. Just last week, this asset was at this price. You know, not even been able to appreciate the fact that we went down for a dump of massive support, and now we find ourselves just shy of 45 cents. At least, you know, for the ones who might be naysayers, at least you did have a bounce back up from 38. It's back near 45. Now, some people, the make or break would be, hey, it's got to get over $1. It's got to do this. I'm just looking for some symmetry here, folks. I'm just looking for this to continue bouncing up in the right fashion. That's what I'm looking for. And then if it comes down, I'm looking for it to just hold the support. I'm looking for us to find an area where we can garner a lot of buyers. If I'm being honest, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for us to be able to garner some buyers. That's it. I'm looking for some buyers to help us along the way. I've seen this before. We've all seen this before. We've seen the shakeout attempts before. This is nothing new to our community. We've also seen these rallies after a shakeout and how it usually plays out. You usually get one big breach back down to see how much support we have. We don't know, though, where that level is going to be when we do it. Like XRP's is at 45.07 cents is that cup and handle resistance. Bitcoin's resistance, oh boy, did we just hit it? We just hit our resistance. On that push up when it just went to 58,478, Bitcoin actually tapped the resistance. Interesting. Yeah, that's why I don't mind the shakeouts. Honestly, I don't. I like the shakeouts. It brings out like a lot of... With XRP, it's right around 45.06. We've already hit 45.03, so am I going to say if it were to come down, oh, it didn't hit it? No, it's absolutely hit it. But I do always like for it to just tap it. Just like on Happy Gum, we're just tap it in. Now we're just trying to tap it in. See, Bitcoin's hitting that pattern resistance right now. This is where we find out a lot. We needed this to happen. One way or the other, we're either going to break through this together or we're going to come back down. So we want to see Bitcoin have a volatile swing up to like 59.3 now. We don't want to see it get smacked in the face at 58,480 because that's the pattern resistance. That used to be support. And that is the pennant flag. That's the pennant flag. That used to be support, remember. It was a long bout of resistance. Now, is it possible that they could try to bear trap us? Because if you look at this, boom, boom, right? Now look at it if it comes down like this. Couldn't that create an inverse head and shoulders? And then people would be like, oh my God, Bitcoin's dumping. It comes down to 56K and then out. Couldn't that be a scenario as well so we can get some dump down pressure and get some support? That's another thing I'm paying attention to. It hasn't happened yet, but it could. It could, because it dumped down here, came down for further support, comes up. Now maybe it coincides with the move back to the inverse left arm, proves that we have the support in that area. Then it can start the volatility breakout, the volatile breakout. So that is also something I'm watching. But I couldn't have that happen unless we come up to resistance. Otherwise, it makes me look kind of like a dope to say, oh, we could be starting an inverse head and shoulders, and then it just rolls over before it ever gets there. But I still like talking about it. It's that simple. I like talking about it. You know, I like putting it out there and see what everybody thinks. You know? The only difference between me and you is I'm behind the screen. That's it. That's it. I may know a little bit more with certain things when it comes to the technicals, but that doesn't make me any better. I can tell you that much. So I'll be interested to see how this plays out over time. Over time. I know, for real. Turbo going up 50% a day, but that's the thing. Like, every time we see it, it makes us want to move over what we have in XRP. I've seen so many people do that same thing. Oh, that's a good point. We are all behind screen. Duh. You guys are... You technically are behind the screen. I guess I should have said the only difference is you can see me behind my screen and I can't see you. Yeah, that would have made me sound less stupid. I'll go with that. I'll go with that. That made me sound not as dumb. But yeah, I've seen Turbo go up as well. You just don't want to be the person who shifts over from XRP and then it drops 50% or like it did the other day, 60% on some of these. You know, it's great to have the rally, but you don't want to be the, you know, the dunce for losing all of it by shifting it over either. So there's always that fine line. But XRP, I mean, in comparison to a lot of them, it hasn't had any kind of real sustained bounce. But that's our XRP. That's what we're used to. So let's see. XLM's at 9.08 cents. XLM didn't quite hit the technical drop target. It came close. Came down to about 7.6. We targeted 7.3 cents. I'm not going to kill myself for that at all. I think that was actually a pretty good call from there. See, even XLM is getting very close to coming back up to this level. It's getting very close. That resistance for XLM is at 9.36 cents. It's almost like we froze in price here, didn't we? I feel like we've been stuck right at this resistance for a minute. I feel like we have a little bit of uncertainty here right now. Nah, I'm not gonna cut 50% of my hair. I'm gonna let it grow until we hit $1. Whether it takes me, it's already been over a year now. I cut it last July for the first time. So we finally hit our 1 year mark, which is the first time in my life I haven't cut my hair for over a year. Oh, the front part. If I cut the front part, you know, I might go, you know, pretty bald. You know. But every year I get older. From here, I'm 40 now, so I'm lucky to have the hair I do. Especially if you look at my dad with how his hair is, how it's thin and got a little island back here. You could run out your head for hey, you never know. I've heard worse ideas. Run my head out for advertising so I can buy more XRP when it inevitably drops. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Are you trying to tell me I need to take out a white papers or a yellow pages ad on my forehead just so that I can support my XRP buying for every time it drops? That's an interesting way to bring some capital to the house. It's an interesting way to bring capital in. We got a funny community. We have a funny community. Let's see. Anything else I wanted to cover? I don't think there's any... Basically, I went over everything I wanted to. I can't think of anything else I want to cover. Right now, it's just the weight game. Does XRP push over this resistance? or not. That's the only thing right now. Is it going to push over resistance, or is it going to continue pushing that? That's all. That's the only thing that I'm wondering. Honestly, it is. All I'm wondering is, can we get past this 45.07 cents for XRP, and can Bitcoin get past like the 58,486 level? That's what I'm watching. That's all I can function. That's all I can watch. So, if anybody's wondering what I'm doing, that's what I'm trying to watch right now. I'm trying to see if we can push through these areas of resistance. There's not much more I can do. I can keep looking at the charts, but if you have something to add, I would love to hear it now while I still have everybody's attention. Okay. We're just... I always find it interesting in these times when we get kind of like frozen in time. But that's what I got, everybody. I'm going to go help Julie. I thank each and every one of you for tuning in. I really, 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 really do. I really, 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 really thank everybody for tuning in. I'll try to do a live tomorrow, but it's very speculative if I'd be able to because my son's birthday party. I'm going to do my lives and stuff as normal. But yeah, I might do a night recap tonight, so, you know, pay attention to the updates a little bit. I don't necessarily want to go just yet because we're so close to the close. How about this? I'm going to make you watch something. I'm going to go inside and we're going to get a little bit of relaxation and we're going to try to watch the close here together to see where we go. And yeah, a lot of you are going to leave right now because a lot of you don't like Mike Maloney. I don't know why. I really don't, but a lot of people don't like Mike Maloney and they get really mad when I show this. But I like Mike Maloney, and I think he should have more people watching, even though he's got 700,000+ subscribers, 742,000. He had like 150,000 when I started watching him, so I'm proud of him for moving up as much as he has. Just I feel like he gets skipped over a lot because he brings up some truth.
This of the man whose ideas caused this chapter I've shown.
Oh, right here. So if you want to know what's going on when it comes to this, well, I'm not going to talk about it. I'll let him talk about it. But the central banks and how this actually makes the rich get richer and where the money... I'm not going to say it. He's going to say it.
There's the top 10%, the top 1%, the bottom 90%. But anyone whose net worth is tied to the value of their stock portfolios is in possession of stolen property. Purchasing sent to billionaires, somebody with assets that exceeds $200 billion. So from the time quantitative easing started, these companies, their stock prices rose. Netflix by a factor of 238 times, Amazon 95 times, Apple 67 times, Microsoft 23 times, and Alphabet, which is Google, 22 times. Tesla was not yet publicly traded when QE started or through much of QE, so it is not on this list. When it comes to the richest people on Earth, I'm sure that if quantitative easing and interest on excess reserves had never happened, that both the rise in their stocks and thus their wealth would have been far, far less than half of what it ended up to be. Jeff Bezos and the rest of them don't know it. But anyone whose net worth is tied to the value of their stock portfolios is in possession of stolen property. Purchasing power stolen from the poor and the middle class. But to spare you any suspense, it's the Federal Reserve and the world's other major central banks that are once again the villains here. Are you fed up yet? This next series of...
And if you don't know who Mike Maloney is, please go on YouTube, type in Mike Maloney. He not only tells you about gold and silver, but you get to learn about a lot of stuff. See, already 13 people left when I put Mike Maloney on. I find it startling that you could start to learn this kind of stuff and you can see the truth about what's going on and not have to watch the TV screen or the news and get lied to. When you can see the real truth, most people just can't process it. I don't understand that. He's a perfect example of it. He is a perfect example of it.
It's what I've done here is I've broken the population into wealth percentiles. There's the bottom 50%, there's the top 10%, the top 1%, the bottom 90%. So I talk about that. And this first chart is a picture of the amount of dollars that the bottom 50% is holding, the IOU dollars, in their checking accounts and cash on hand. The Federal Reserve supplies this data. And what you see is that the bottom 50%, they're in their checking accounts and the cash on hand. It was about $10.5 billion in 2007. And as of this writing, which was a few months ago, it was 276 billion, an increase of 26 times from the low in 2007. But this picture of currency in demand deposits, checkable deposits, which is...
Yeah, if you're buying gold and silver, if you're trying to buy a precious metal, you buy the actual commodity itself. You want to be in possession or bury it somewhere, but you want to know that you have the physical commodity. You want the gold or silver. You don't want a IOU, as some could say, by holding the silver trust. And because it says right within it, if you, let me just tell you a little secret if you're trading silver. If you read the bylaws, it says in the silver trust that you can redeem your silver for gold. But it also says in the bylaws they can only make whole 1 out of every 10 users, which means 9 out of 10 would only get dollar value. Which means if you buy the silver trust and you've got 1,000 ounces worth of silver that you think you're getting, well, you may only get 1,000 ounces worth of dollars and no silver, because I can almost guarantee you're not going to be the 1 in 10 they select. And the reason why is because they got much deeper spenders. And a lot of people don't understand, when you don't buy physical, even though it says that you can get it delivered to you, in the bylaws, if you're doing it through the stock exchanges, it says only 1 in 10 will be made whole. Because there's not enough. No. And what they do with the silver trust, instead of having physical silver ready on demand, it's just basically like printing the US dollar. That's the number one way they use to manipulate the price. So, me personally, all physical. All physical. All physical, baby. And yeah, if I want a commodity, if I want something on paper, B2 Gold. Right? I had $8,000 worth of B2 Gold when it was at $2.53. I had to sell, for tax purposes, a couple $1,000s. I have about $5,700 still invested in my own money. Still from the same buy, and it's over $2.80 right now. But I had to sell some because I had my summer taxes, which were ridiculous. They were about $4,600 just for the summer. The highest it's ever been.
Checking accounts is basically a picture of what is now driving inflation. These are the people that use this currency to buy groceries and gasoline. So they're feeling a little bit more secure because of all the stimulus checks that happened during the pandemic and the fact that they didn't have any place to spend their currency during lockdowns. So if they still had a job, the currency accumulated in their checking accounts. After the pandemic ended, we saw inflation rage. This is where it came from. And, you know, inflation, it'll because of changes in velocity, it will bounce up and it will bounce down, but it ultimately has to strike.
Crypto Bug, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Gotta go. Tom Girlfriend says it's moving. Oh, you get out of here, my friend. Get out of here, because I always leave once my significant other, Julie, when she tells me that I got to do something. Fortunately, I got some time to spend with you guys a little bit longer, because she's working on she's making cupcake, they're cupcakes inside of a, you know, the ice cream cone, which I haven't had in years, but she's doing that for our son for his birthday party this year, because she always makes the cakes and stuff homemade. She's so good at what she does. So, but Crypto Bug, have a good movie night, and hopefully I'll try to put an update out for you specifically later this evening, even if it's around 11 or 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. We've been talking about just the price analysis, where we're at as in terms of the resistance levels. XRP's resistance right now is at 45.07 cents. So we need to get over that, or it could be a bearish rejection, and then not necessarily just bearish to back down to the depths of, the hell, but it could just be consolidation to where we find a support structure. And then for Bitcoin, we have to get over 58,486, I believe the number was. So yes, please hit the like button. XRP World, welcome. And I won't stop this. Right now we're watching Mike Maloney, and he's talking about basically how the rich steal from the poor, and it's not in the way you might think. It's not in the way you might think.
An equilibrium with the amount of currency that was created and prices of goods and services that we use that currency for, because that's all currency is: a medium of exchange, a temporary storage device for that value, and a measurement tool. You can give things a price. So the next chart,
Juan, have a good evening, friend. Bless you, my brother.
The same chart, but I've had to compress it way, way down. So the bottom 50% is this blue line.
We'll get back into XRP before I leave, I promise.
I've put on top of it the richest 1%. So the bottom 50% against the top 1%. And what you see here is that in 2007, the bottom 50%, their wealth in checking accounts was $10.5 billion, and the top 1% only had $12 billion. This is all according to the Federal Reserve. But
now look at this, ladies and gentlemen. What was the pandemic really? A transfer of wealth at the highest level. Watch what happens here. Look at the difference in checking accounts from the top 50% compared to the bottom 50. Look how even it was. That's how it's supposed to be. Now watch what happens here in the last, especially the last 4 to 5 years.
The bottom 50% went from 10.5 billion, it went
up 26
Syrian
times. Middle class squeeze.
The top 1%, their wealth in checking accounts went from 12 billion up 111 times to 1.33 trillion. Now,
so you and I went from $12 billion in our checking accounts across the board, and we got up to, we went up 1.5 billion to get there. The top 50% went up to 1.331 billion. They went up 111 times. So just listen to his breakdown. Now I really can't say anything else because he can break this down better than I can. But I'm trying to catch everybody up if you just tuned in.
These are not the people that are, even though their wealth went up 111 times, they can't buy 111 times more groceries and gasoline. So where is this wealth going to go? With other assets crashing as the everything bubble pops, stocks, bonds, real estate being risky investments where they can possibly lose this, I do believe that this is going to seek safe haven alternative assets. And so a whole lot of this currency is going to come seeking gold and silver in the next crisis.
On the head,
and
Rick.
This
that's where a lot of
is
it went.
Enormous. So moving on to the next chart, I want to show you some of the wealth disparity and income inequality and why and whose fault is it anyway. This first chart shows the richest 1% and the poorest 50%. So from 51 to 99, they're missing. They're not on this chart. The richest 1% went from 7.6% of checkable deposits to 31. So almost a third of the checkable deposits out there.
And this 100% points to, like Syrian said, the middle class squeeze. I've talked about this often. They're leveraging out the middle class. You're either going to be lower or upper. There's no in between anymore. And this is the disparity you're seeing right here.
Are owned by the richest 1%. Well, the bottom 50% went from 14% down to 6.4% during that same time period. The next chart is the richest 1% and the poorest 99%. So this chart includes everybody, the entire population. But you can see that I've rounded it here to 8% instead of 7.6. But the richest 1% goes from 8% to 31%, while the poorest 99%, the bottom 99%, because there's a lot of pretty wealthy people there in that top 10%, went from 92% of the deposits down to 69% of the deposits, less than 70%. From 92 down to 69. This is huge. This next chart is the one that is really important here. Here is the top 10% compared to the bottom 90%.
Can I ask everybody a question who's still here? How many of you are aware of this? How many of you who are in my audience are aware of this disparity? I've noticed 25 people have left since I put Mike Maloney on. I mean, I appreciate everybody who comes here to see me. I understand you're not coming here to see Mike, but I can't give you this. The way he puts this stuff together, it can paint the picture of everything I try to tell. The picture, he can fill in the picture that I try to paint, I should say. He's filling in what we always talk about. It's unbelievable. And for the ones who had no idea, this is why I keep telling you, buy gold and silver. Please. And yeah, maybe now it doesn't seem as attractive as when I used to tell you to buy gold at 17, 1800. Or when I would try to get you to buy silver with that huge differential in the gold-silver ratio, up to over 100 to 1 while we've been together. And you might not have bought it at 17. And yeah, it might be harder now for me to convince you to buy it at 31. It might be harder to convince you to buy gold at 2,390 rather than 1,700. But it's all about, do you want to have currency or money? And the farther we get away from this, and the farther this disparity goes, the less of a chance we can have of having paper money in the future. Because they're going to have to switch it to a whole narrative, and this is what they want. Ready? They want to have us all on universal income. That simply means they will pay us all the same amount, and the wealthy, they'll have their gold and silver. Yeah, they're not going to have it all in US dollars. They'll still get the universal income, but in the backs of their Brinks trucks, in the back of their vaults, in the underground storage, they've got precious metals. So, precious metals, okay, you have a universal income. Well, now you've got that as a bigger backing. Now you don't just need to depend on the universal income. Like, and that's where we're going right now. 90% of the poorest, look at how much income. Look at our savings accounts. Look at prior to what happened in the blah, blah, blah during the pandemic in 2020. And look where we're at now. This was not by accident.
They're both on this chart.
So you need to get ready.
Mirror image of each other.
You should have been getting ready.
Interesting, if you average this, you can see that the red line up until the crisis of 2008 was usually on the bottom, and the blue line was usually on the top. So the bottom 90% held about 52% of the checking deposits in the United States, and the top 10% held about 48%. But then with the crisis of 2008, Ben Bernanke, and the responsibility of this lays solely on his shoulders. Ben Bernanke and his policies caused this enormous wealth transfer that we've tracked throughout this book and throughout this chapter that you're getting to read and watch for free online. I want you, please, send this to everybody you can, because everybody needs to know about this wealth.
And guys and gals, let me put this past you. Mike Maloney, he's not in the poorest 90% like probably everybody watching here. He is one of the wealthy people. Because he believed in gold and silver when it was very cheap, he didn't have to do anything else. He put so much money into gold and silver since 2000, the guy's rich beyond belief. He's part of that 10%. But yet, he's giving you this. Why? Got to go out somewhere. Like Peter Schiff, he's part of the top 1% of the 1%ers. He's the 0.1 within the 1%. And he's one of my most trusted people that I would ever watch. Same with Mike Maloney. And I actually feel mercy on Mike Maloney because I don't think he gets the recognition he deserves. To put out stuff like this, 100% guarantees being blacklisted on YouTube so it doesn't get reached.
Transfer. And in this chapter, I've shown you how it happens, the mechanics of it, what caused it, and here is the proof that it actually happened.
I love that,
so
CJ2 pilot.
Went from about 48% of the deposits up to about 66%. So about 2/3 of all of the checkable deposits. And the bottom 90% went from about 52% down to about 33%, a third of all the checkable deposits. And so at the beginning of this chapter, I promised to expose the wealth disparity and income inequality that appears to be tearing society apart at the seams. And this is a picture of it. Look at that chart. Pass this around. This is a picture of the social unrest that is happening. It's a picture of...
And honestly, I need to get his book, because this is all broken down in his book, and it just came out last year. And I've been watching him throughout the last year. He tells, you know, he goes through pages of the books, but look at what he put in this book. And I remember when he shared this last year, it only got about 1,300 views on YouTube, so it definitely got suppressed. So he reshared it, and this is about 1 year later now he's resharing this. So this is actually him 1 year ago.
The next part, which is a picture of envy, hatred, and intolerance. But we shouldn't blame
I'm just trying
the
to
rich.
get to the daily close
There's
here.
so many politicians that want you to blame the rich and try and tax them out of existence.
Would be a
this
good day
is
if he does
just
it today,
politicians
because
trying to get your vote. The rich didn't really have, and they didn't steal anything.
Doesn't matter. He doesn't
This was
nap once he
all
falls
the
asleep
fault
past
of the
certain
central
time now.
banks. In fact, it's just the opposite. The rich are the people that saved up. They started businesses. They make incredible sacrifices and shoulder incredible burdens to make all of the products and the services that we buy. And running these businesses, as a business owner, I know that running businesses is a nightmare. The amount of problems that you deal with constantly with the government and with employees, it just sometimes does not seem worth it. Especially government regulation, taxation, they just make it so incredibly difficult. So the rich are the people that create most of the prosperity in our society. So without them, there wouldn't be much of an economy. So don't demonize them. It's not their fault. They didn't do this. The Fed did it. Ben S. Bernanke did it. So Ben Bernanke is the one who gets got us to this point. You need
that's what I wanted you guys to see with Mike Maloney, because when he shared that last year and then he reshared it, I should have shared it to everybody last year. I don't know if I did. I can't remember. But the fact that he reposted it, it's like, I found a moment here that I could share it. So 10 minutes before the daily close here, XRP's under 45.07 cents. That's the major resistance right now. Bitcoin's under the major resistance at 58,486, even though they've both tapped that resistance. So Bitcoin absolutely came up here and tapped it. This is the second candle in a row in the 30 that it tapped it. But it does seem to be losing a little steam now. Did it say Bitcoin was at, wow, 58,146? So that's starting to push to the bottom side of this candle. If we're not careful here with Bitcoin, if it comes like 58,060 in the next 10 minutes, we could very well put in a nice bearish reversal here. In just a small time frame to try to retest probably. Well, not probably, but to retest in the short term. But remember what we talked about. If you're just coming in, we speculated on Bitcoin that, this is my speculation, that it just might not have finished inverse head and shoulders. So what if it's doing something like this and we just got to come, we got to come parallel here and make that the support. So that would be somewhere around 56,644, assuming we get a rejection there and we don't want to come all the way down. So that could be how we stop gapping out. So that's what we're speculating. That's one version. A second version is we could have had a daily close over here and got a little bit of a kind of bounce up. But we don't know yet, because just because it doesn't close over it in the daily doesn't mean it's over. But that's the former pattern that it broke down, and it was support for a long time. Well, I can't necessarily say a long time, because it started, it's the pennant flag or the falling channel. Then it broke out, tried to use that as support, came back through. Now if it used as resistance, it's an issue. We've been speculating, though, that Bitcoin could come down to that level. I know it didn't technically touch it, but in this case it has to if it wants it to legitimately be a tap. So we don't know what's happening. Is this going to do an inverse head and shoulders breakout? Is it going to break down here? Which then it becomes even more interesting, because what if it does do a recovery? That would be a massive W. So there's a lot of different things that could happen, but the more you start playing with this pattern, the more bullish you'll start feeling if it can hold that support even on a come down. Now the ultimate support must hold. End of the day, it hasn't done it yet, but the end of the day, last chance, you're screwed if you don't, and if it comes past this point, it's over, is that 48,404 approximately. Because to me, and I made a very strong argument with the community, or a compelling argument, that this could very well it is in the handle. Big cup, right? Actually, let me do this shorter. We already know the big cup, right? What if the short-term cup and handle, we created the little cup, bounced out, long-term cup and handle, we come all the way back down, retest that, which ironically would put us at that 48,000, I have the number exactly, 48,408, and that would back test the shorter cup that broke out as a handle. So, Seymour XRP long from 38.23, excellent. That's an excellent long. Now you have it by the balls, because now it's in your destiny. You don't even have to sell it on the first sign of rejection at 45, because it hit once. But you got time to let it play out here. You're actually in the best position possible from where you're at. Because now you can actually watch it, and you can be like, okay, I know we have a short-term tap here, where it didn't get over yet, but you've got a lot of room here where even if it got rejected short-term, because it does look like a reversal is starting to be put in. And I wasn't trying to scare anybody to start this live by saying, hey, we could possibly reverse here. I was just trying to speak the truth to everybody, because, and that doesn't mean we're reversing here. Just because it put in a reversal candle does not mean it's reversing at all. It has to be validated in the next candle. All I was saying is we were very oversold in the 30-minute. The 15-minute was getting a little outrageous, and now it's pushing back up and out. But when you get farther along, like when the hourly gets that oversold, it usually speaks to the fact that we're going to either remain bullish by a nice consolidation that would allow us to alleviate some pressure. Because the worst thing we can do right now is to just kind of grind this level, and this volume grinds to a halt. What we want to do with this volume being so low is they want to allow the sellers to come back in, even if it's the trading bots doing it, and maybe tap this level, or they could, in my opinion, they need to let it tap that level. The most bullish thing here, if we don't do a W reversal, the most bullish thing we can do here, now that we came up and tapped this area, now you got to come back and show area of support. That's the cup and, or that's the, here, let me show you. I don't want to just speak when nobody can see it. But that is the, it's not the cup and handle, because we're up to the, well, it's the, let me pull this out. It's the handle support, but we're trying to see if we can use that as support. But where we're at right now in this resistance, this isn't the handle. I keep saying the handle. Where we're at right now, that's not the handle. We're trying to back test the handle. That's why I had to show you. This is the short-term pattern we broke out of, that we were in a consolidation that ended up leading us to the cup and handle support, but also confirmed that we actually have a falling channel right now. So, Rick, thank you so much for the $10 donation. He says, happy birthday, Tommy. Yeah, his birthday's on July 11th, but we're going to celebrate it tomorrow. So I'm pretty excited about that. Got some stuff to do inside, but I wanted to stay on for the daily close. I'm just excited to be with everybody. Good, bad, or indifferent. I just like being here. And I hope the passion shines through so you can see how much I actually care and how much I actually study the charts so that I know the levels. From a leverage standpoint, doesn't matter, because if you get it in the wrong spot, you look at it the wrong way, even if you look at it the right way, you have a stop loss in, you have a, there's a lot of things that can go against you, but there's a lot of things that can go for you as well if you start to get it down. Mike Stevenson, thank you so much for the $20 donation. Wow. I did not think I was going to get any donations tonight. $30 all of a sudden in the last 5 minutes. That's incredible. It's incredible. What a diligent audience. You made me love this shiz. I appreciate that. Wow. Hopefully you understand it at a level where you can trade it now and you don't feel, afraid. A lot of people feel afraid when they trade. I don't want people to be afraid to trade. I want you to understand what is happening. That's all I want. So XRP's at 44.90. So we're basically in the middle of this little squeeze on the 30-minute. Can we say from the beginning of this live to the end that it's starting to play out in a way that we were starting to see earlier? Or at least we know what's starting to happen. That's not necessarily the most bearish candle either, folks. That could be top heavy. We can look at this in the positive. Nobody says it has to come down. Nobody. I mean, that's a little bearish in the 15. But nobody says it has to come down. So, we're watching it for the last 2 minutes. Bitcoin right now is at 58,279. It got 2 bearish rejections at the former pattern that we fell outside of. And now it would be used as a resistance area. Well, I mean, it's not that we fell outside of it. We fell back within the pattern. And we don't want this as resistance. It took a long time for Bitcoin to break out of this pennant flag. And now for it to be using it as resistance right now would be devastating. Now, if it can create an inverse head and shoulders here and not give it back, even if it has to consolidate, we could be off to the races. And when I say off to the races, we could be off to the races of like 70K. And it would not be out of the question if we could have an inverse head and shoulders here to come up to that $9 billion liquid or $6.8 billion liquidation zone for longs at 73K. So if we could do this properly, we could have a hell of a rally here. A good rally. A great rally indeed. Same thing for XRP. If we do this right, we could have a magnificent rally. Right now, to do it right, if we come all the way up here right now and don't have any kind of proper back test, it could be a problem. It could be a problem. We're not establishing any layer of support. We need to establish this 427S. That's what I am gunning for right now, that it has to do that. CJ2 Pilot, thank you so much for the $9.99. Says for Tommy's birthday. Hey, you guys who are saying, I'm going to buy him some stuff just from the community with these donations. I'm dead serious. I'm going to buy him stuff, and on his birthday, I'm going to show you some of the stuff we got him. I'm going to buy him some cars and some... He's been into, like, the Hot Wheels cars and the die cast and, like, the real, the metal style cars and that kind of stuff. So, thanks, Mike. I thank you for your donation as well. So, yeah, that means a lot to me. We got to the daily close. Now, for some of you who wanted it to close, don't think that it's just bearish. Now, I know some people when we were talking might have got the impression that if we close under 45.07, we're just automatically bearish. It's not the case. It's not automatically bearish yet. We just need to get over that level. Now, closing underneath it when we had a shot to go over it, it doesn't make you feel good, but it doesn't mean it's over. I would still be in favor for it to come down to what I'm showing. Just because I know we could establish a layer of support right there. And that would offer some big topside benefits here if we could do that and hold. Anywhere, if we can hold anywhere in here, we just need to find some consolidation so that we can dump out some of the hands that bought at 38C. When you get a bunch of people, 38, 39, 40, we'll cut the difference in the middle at 39. But look how much they're up right now. Once you start pushing that 20%, or well, 15 is where a lot of people start to question whether or not they want to hold anymore. 10%, some are willing to move, but 15%, you start getting in that area. I know a lot of you who trade, have you noticed that 10 to 15% push, then you start to notice some people start to get a little loose and sell, or 20%. That's what starts happening because they fear the fall back down, especially when you have a rally after a significant dump. I want to see XRP succeed here, damn it. What just happened here? 44. Bitcoin. Ooh. See, they're starting to look like they're looking like they need to correct a little bit. It's like we started with, but I gotta go. I gotta go help I got to go help Julie with the feeding with my son. As you know, he's got his G-tube, so it's but it's been real easy, real smooth. So we'll see what happens here. I'm XRP Future Millionaire. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're looking to trade XRP, it's in the video description below, or your favorite crypto. It's all in the video description below. If you do appreciate my work, consider joining Tom's Army. Be a great investment. Or pay it forward with one YouTube super chat per month, or just one YouTube donation. It doesn't have to be a super chat. You can also do a super chat when I'm not live. If you see some of my content and you're like, hey, I'd like to send him a donation, you can do it there. But I do like when people send it during the live so that I can acknowledge you in person. So thank you all so much. Have a blessed evening. And don't forget to give thanks to your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ here on this most holy of days, on this Saturday of evening. Or this most holy of evening.